about 650 years ago or thereabout, there was some challenges in Benin. We don't really know what happened. We don't have the accurate history. But a prince of Benin called Ginuwa, that's Ginuwa, left Benin and went and founded what is now the Ishekiri nation. And so a lot of they work together. There is, I mean, the Beninese never fought with the Shekiris. The Shekiris never fought with the Benin. It's almost like we are one people. So even when the name that we call our king, Ogiame, it's a hyphenated Benin word, Ogie, meaning Lord, and Ame. So Ogie, Ame, Ogiame, meaning Lord of the Sea. And so we are, like a riverine people in a riverine area. So that's what it is, Lord of the Sea. So we had like a lot of we like call them boats, whereby we could go to different places and then get goods. We get palm oil. We bought slaves. Now, this is not history that that is necessarily pleasant. Now, what I wrote about, and it's clear, and you can't twist my words because it's still there. I said that we had a number of slaves that we were trading. We traded them at mostly through Ogidime, which is also called esclavos. Some were traded in forcados. These were not route cities. And there's documentary evidence for that. And I encourage people, I said they should try to watch the long video done by Sir David Attenborough. Now you have to understand, David Attenborough is not a Shekiri man, he's not a Benin man, he's not an Igbo man, he's not even an African. He's a white man. He's an anthropologist. He's world famous, and so when he says these things, he doesn't have like a dog in the fight. Now, the Benin, it's a fact, and I released the documentary evidence in the YouTube video, which you can also go and watch. The Benin were going, because you have to understand that Igbo people did not have a centralized kingdom, whereby you had one king and then all of them were subject to the king. So in terms of population, they were always more than the Benin and the Shekiri. They were always more. But because they were not centralized, it was easy because the Oba of Benin had a standing army. So he could mobilize 100,000 men within 24 hours. And so they would go on raiding parties to Igbo territory, raid, get people, and then these people were used as, I mean, this is not nice. I mean, but they were.
We talk about history. There's nothing wrong. I mean, we saw. I mean, the Black African Americans that we see here in America and all around the world, the people of Black, African ancestry. Some Africans were also involved in making them slaves. It's something we should talk about and we should acknowledge.
So they raided these places and then they got slaves. And when some people were upset by what I said, I released the evidence from David Attenborough. David Attenborough bought a carving, a Benin carving from the Oba of Benin, not this Oba, not his father Ejua, but Oba Akenzua. Brought the carving out there. I mean, it's still there. You can actually see it, because you have to understand the Shekiris and the Benins, they carved their history. They didn't have written history like the Europeans. So what they did was like anything that happened that was of significance, they carved it. And so there's a great deal of record that you can see, historical record. And David Attenborough had this carving, and he says, okay, this carving was done in 16th century, that is 1550. These were Portuguese. And then you see there, he says that these people who had been captured were Igbo. He said it here. You can actually watch it. He says they were Igbo. He actually showed the tribal marks. I said that by these tribal marks from the anthropological research, these were Igbo people. These were things that our ancestors did. And so they raided, particularly the Benins. The Shekiris, mostly the state that we got were just like buying, and then we will resell. So that's the situation. Now, I talked about that we had, because it got to a point whereby the British abolished the slave trade, and then they began arresting people. That's how Samuel Ajari Crowther was saved. Samuel Ajari Crowther was actually taken to Fura Bay College in Sierra Leone, taught English, And the reason why he was taught English was not because they wanted to educate him, it was so that he could testify against the Portuguese slave traders in court. Please, you can research it. This is public history. It's not something that is hidden. So they taught him English, and then he testified, and then those Portuguese slave traders were convicted. So, it now became something that they arrested. Now, can I have a bottle of water? So it's not something that you be arrested. So the trade just died down. There was nothing that those people could do. So you had a lot of these people, they could not go back. It's just like this is not in our own area. This one is with the Ijo area, like Jaja. Jaja couldn't go back because Jaja didn't know where he was from. Jaja, it's most likely that Jaja originated from Imo, present-day Imo. But he could have been from Abia, your state, but we don't really know. But he could not go back. So they stayed, they founded communities, and that's what happened. We have people that after the slave trade was abolished, they stayed around us. I've never, a lot of people asking me, tell us the name. I'm not going to say the name because it's disrespectful to these people. But the name of the tribe is an Ishekiri word. The actual name of the tribe is an Ishekiri word. And they can't deny it, and they don't even attempt to deny it. When they speak their language, the Benin people can understand them, Ishekiri people can understand them, Portuguese people can understand some words, and then Igbos can understand them. So, that's what I wrote about. I did not, but everything I said, there's documentary, not oral, documentary evidence for it.
No, you see, the thing about it is that we're conflicting lots of different issues and different things. And the problem is because we Africans, we never really learned how to write. Well, we were writing, but we never learned how to document our history and things that are happening. And that's the reason why we're even having this conversation right now. And in such conversations, there's a mix of half-truths and lies. Everything's all mixed up all together and nobody knows what's necessary.
Can I say something, please? If I've told you lies...
You're not saying anything half-true because of the fact that you intend to say the half-truth. It's a function of what you know. If you don't know something, you just don't know it. So if you know a half-truth and you accept it as the truth, that is it. It's not your fault.
Uche, can I respond to that? What I said, I have provided documentary evidence. Please let me learn. It's what I talked about, the sensitivity, then you go on.
It's not about sensitivity.
So allow me learn. Just calm yourself. I provided documentary evidence for it. I provided a video. In the video, there was documentary evidence for it. Other than the documentary evidence that I provided, I also gave evidence as that, listen, these are the towns where these were done. In those towns where these were done, I'm sure if you go and research, you can research about the town of Uginibe or Escravos and Forcados, and you see pictures. These pictures are online. And then I also said that this tribe is in Delta State. The name of that the tribe is called, their official name, the name that they call themselves, is an Ishekiri word. I'm not even going to...
Listen, I can understand where you're coming from. And this is the reason why I understand where you're coming from. And what you're saying is right in a way, but that half-truth way. In the sense, let me explain. The tribes in Nigeria, all tribes in Nigeria dealt with slaves. Some tribes today still deal with slaves. Some, for example, and people can even push it. Some people even go to the extreme and say, okay, when you talk about the concept of housemaid and house girls, and they use the word omodo and things like that, you're still talking about it's a form of slavery. You understand? All tribes dealt with slaves. There's some certain groups of Igbo people whose job at that point of time was to go capture people and sell them as slaves. If a tribe fights between themselves, like Igbo tribes, maybe they might, or any tribe fight between themselves and they win the other guys and they've captured them. They take them and they can sell them to a different group of people as slaves. That was how fluid the people were selling human beings as slaves. Now, when I mentioned something about a transit route and everything, I doubt the Shekiris had the amount of human beings necessary for them for the Portuguese to make it a profitable business of slave trade. You guys, it was impossible for you to have that amount of people. So for that amount of people to have left the shores of Nigeria, there are different routes whereby maybe they had passed through Forcados, Escravos, or whatever. They had to go into the hinterland, made deals with even Igbo traders, Arabs coming from the north capturing people, You know, it was a combination of different people from all sorts, like all sorts, all groups, all every. I mean, it's you can't say, oh, these guys we had how many people how many are you? Population has grown. How many of you were there? So like say, oh, all Igbos that are captured, we captured them, and when we captured them, we now sold them to the white man, to the Portuguese. It makes no sense. You understand? Now, your argument about a group of people who remained is very possible, because we have examples of that happened in Sierra Leone and Liberia, how people settled in the last few days of the slave trade, when they were winding up. The last people who were maybe in the batch, they were supposed to be exported, and it ended. Where would they go to? They, of course, they have to settle in that place. Maybe it was just too hard for them to go back to their land. They could have settled down there and formed a village. It just meant that there was a remembrance of people who were captured. Maybe there was a whole group of people, 1,000 people that were gotten, you know, whereby one Igbo, in fact, an Igbo man came and delivered the slaves to the Portuguese themselves in one town in that area, which we know as Ishekiri, which, by the way, is being shared by different tribes of people. You know, not just the Ishekiris have that land, which they have. We know the Urhobos, the Ishekiris, and the Jaws all have all claim the same area of land. But that's an argument for a different point, a different day, you know. And that's what happened. So that's the. So when I say you're mixing half truth, not necessarily you're not telling the truth. Yes, there might be a tribe of people who speak a language in which people of Benin understand, the Shekiris understand, and the Igbos understand. But the reason why they were there is not necessarily for the reason which you're pushing forward. Yes, they might have been slaves, but you don't know how those slaves came about. We cannot say that, oh, the reason why those group of people came was because the Shekiris went to go and buy them from Benin people, and that's why those people are here. No, they could have been actually even been brought by Igbo people down there. They could have been brought by Arabs who came from the hinterlands there. They could have brought any way possible. We don't know these things. We're not there. We didn't document it. You know, so when you make blanket general statements like that, you know, mixing things here and there, that is why it gives us the impression that, yes, we're mixing things, mixing at a whole different level. That's all I have to say about this.
Okay, so you didn't ask a question, but you said a variety of things.
Yes, it's a conversation, not necessarily a question, but you know, but you can pick up points from there. And if you have questions, you can also ask. But if you have points to clarify one of the things I said, go ahead.
Okay, so you said some things, and you can ask a question. So I'm just going to just respond to that. Now, what I wrote is still there, and that's the thing about writing. Writing is fixed. It cannot be twisted or not. You know, you said in your conversation now that all the people that the Shekiri just captured all the Igbo people, and I never said anything like that. What I said is that the Beninese and the Ishekiris were dealing in slaves, and I said that we had lots of Igbo slaves, and these Igbo slaves. No, please, I listen to you. Calm yourself and listen to me. I said we had lots of people say we are not, in terms of number, we are not a lot. And I explained in it. I said that while we were trading slaves, we were selling slaves with the Portuguese, and a lot of people were upset. Immediately after that, I think it was probably about 2 or 3 hours afterwards, I released evidence, and this evidence showed that the Portuguese, they were our allies. They had an embassy in Benin. They also had an embassy in a place called Ode Shekiri. At Ode Shekiri, they built the first, how would I say, would I call it a monastery, a Catholic monastery in Ode Shekiri. As a matter of fact, they want to put a museum there. And
there's nothing special about selling slaves to the Portuguese and having an embassy. Everybody was selling slaves to them, either directly or indirectly.
Okay, so if we do this, it's going to be very hard to get to the truth. Just be calm. If you want to talk, I'll quiet.
I understand, though, you know, but I'm just trying to, you know, as I said, I'm presenting a point of view, and I'm sure it won't look good if I don't necessarily point out some things, you know, to you as you're speaking. So like, okay, why didn't you say that? Why didn't you tell him that? You know, so that's the only reason. I'm not necessarily arguing with you. I'm calm. Chimamanda has taught us to be calm when we're delivering our message, you know, so I've taken that lesson and I'm calm.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
So we had Portuguese allies. I mean, if anybody, or if you are saying that you also had Portuguese allies, that's a lie, and that there's historical evidence to point it out. You know, we had, and like I said, I encourage you, if you haven't watched the video, go and watch the video. Go and watch David Attenborough. The Benin Empire actually had Portuguese men serving in the Benin army. In Benin, there's a street called Akpakpava. Akpakpava is a very famous street. I'm sure you probably have heard of it. Akpakpava is a bastardization of the word Papal Via. Papal Via just means Pope Road. That road, that was the road where the Pope had his embassy, the Papal Nuncio. He also had an embassy in Ode Ishekiri. They had Portuguese. As a matter of fact, the first West African to have a university degree is Ogiame Atuwashe the first. And the Shekri man, he went to Portugal in 1611, came back with a degree. We had soldiers, we were collaborating with them. So that when if you say that Igbo,
aha, I like that word you use, collaborating with them. That's the better word. You can work. I can work with that. I can work with that. I can work with that.
It's going to be difficult to make any progress if you do this. If you
no, that word. I should just point out collaborate. I like that word.
If you want to talk, I will stop talking and I'll allow you to talk to your heart's content. Then when you are finished talking, I will now talk. I will respond to what you say. Because if not, we are going to have a dialogue of the deaf. And we don't want to have that. We want to want to have a conversation. Can I go on?
Yeah, go on, go on.
Okay. So for you to say that, okay, that the Igbos did not collaborate with the Portuguese. There's no evidence.
No, you said Portuguese collaborated with you guys. That's what I'm saying.
Allow me to talk.
Yeah.
The Igbos did not have any collaboration with the Portuguese. They did not have any at all. There's no historical record of that. I have provided historical record. We have carvings of the Portuguese serving in the Benin army. We have historical records of the Portuguese that were serving with the Shekiris, not as an army in the case of the Shekiris, no, as traders with us. They're helping us with muskets. So this is something that we had. We had slave camps that we were not a route city as you talked about. These were slave camps where our ancestors were actually selling slaves, and it was not only Igbo slaves. There were other slaves. The reason why I talk about Igbo slaves is because the girl that sparked up this conversation was trying to relate Ishekiri words with Igbos, and I tried to explain to her that this is the reason why. Going further, I said that that a lot of these people that we were slain as slaves after slavery ended, after it was forcefully brought to an end, rightfully brought to an end by by the British. After it was forcibly brought to an end by the British, these people they were free to do whatever they want. As a matter of fact, if you look at our population as a people, we are a very, 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 very small people, the Shakiris. And then if you look at the Benins, the Benin, in terms of compared to the Igbo, the Benins are not as large as the Igbo. We were only able to do this because of the unity that we had under one king. And that's why when the Portuguese came, they were able to, okay, these people, they have a kingdom, they have one king, so we can deal with this one king, and then we get what we want. And it's the same thing that the British did. They called it indirect rule. So when they come, they look for a people who already have an empire system, a kingdom system, and then they deal with them. They were able to do that with the Yoruba. They were able to do that with our people. They were able to do that in the north. But among the Igbos, they were not able to do that. That's why the British had to create what they call warrant chiefs. And that's it. So when you're not talking about that, okay, no, it was not a case whereby that the Portuguese were going to Igbo land. The Portuguese never went to Igbo land except as warriors with the Benin army. So like I gave an example later on, because people they were upset naturally, and then they say no, that this couldn't be. I gave an example. I said, look, even if you're talking about a place like Onitsha, like the Onitsha people, if you go there and ask them about their history, they will tell you about their history, that these people they have consanguinity to Benin. If you look at their titles in Onitsha, it's not always a pleasant thing, but if you go there on Onitsha, ask about the history of Onitsha. How did Onitsha come to be as a place? It's not just in Onitsha. You go down, all along that route, you see the names. Some of the names of Bena, some of the names like these are names that trace down to Benin. So that's what I was. That's what.
Can I talk, though? Okay, Reno, let me explain. The thing is this, right? This is not necessarily a question, but a statement. The origin of this whole conversation And I said this at the first. I said it when one of the first statements I made about cringing. The As we are in Nigeria right now, the Igbos, right? We are more interested in looking for the commonalities amongst ourselves, common across the tribes across the South, because whether you like it or not, and there's always going to be people like you who are always going to try and say no, we're different. You know, we are more of the same than we are different. You understand? We have more similarities and more relationship with one another than our differences. You understand? And I think that's what we need to focus on more. Yes, I understand we're trying to conflate history and things like that, but there has been a deep relationship whereby we've had a relationship with each other because the distance between us is not that much. How many kilometers? You can't pass 300, 400 kilometers equidistance between any part of the South and the Southeast. We are more of brothers and sisters. So a situation where you come and say, oh, this is what happened, no, that's not necessarily what happened. Not necessarily. We've always had that relationship. The relationship never just started today. Forget Nigeria who came and they now say, okay, this is this state, this is Delta state, this is this one. I said that was not enough. We just say, we're tired of this Delta, let's try and make ourselves, okay, this is South, this is Southeast. No. We are actually brothers and sisters who just by distance, by distance and things like that, languages diverge and things like that, but we have more in common than we have our differences. And that's where the origin of this came about, whereby someone mentioned to us, oh, I want to name my child Reno. And I said, no, he's trying to prove a point and say, no, this is this, we're this. There's no point of all this one. We should not be having this conversation. You're my brother. You understand? That's how I see you. That's how we see ourselves in Nigeria. But continuously, as much as we're trying to, we want to foster this brotherhood and sisterhood all across the region. We still have people who will come out and say, no, we're different. This is what happened. These people did this to us. These people did this to us. They did this one to us. They, they abandoned my property. They killed us. They did this one. They cheated. I mean, there's no point. If we had properly documented our history, all these things I'm saying will not be conjecture. We'll understand the fact that we're not simply brothers and sisters. That's all. So and that's how I really want to end. It's not like, yes, I had the question and answer thing, So my question to you right now is, how do you see us becoming more brother and sisters? The Ishekiris and the Igbos, the Rubos and the Igbos, the Benins and the Igbos. How can we strengthen the bond amongst ourselves, apart from marrying each other? For example, I'm married to an Edo woman, to a Benin woman, Benin proper. I'm married to a Benin woman, but that's and it's a normal thing that people in my area, people marry people from Edo and things like that, But how, it's not just by marriage, how do we, the question to you, how do we strengthen the bonds between us and stop talking about our differences and why we're not trying to prove we're superior to one another. An Igbo man is not superior to a Shekiri man. A Shekiri man is not superior to another. And that's why I kept on making that point that during the slave trade, I didn't want to even accuse you and say, oh, Shekiris were dealing in slave trades. Yes, even my own people were dealing with slaves, So it's not necessarily that Shekiri thing and Igbo thing or anything. We're all the same. So how do we do this? That's my own question to you right now.
Okay, well, so to respond to you, what you have said is very, very inaccurate. How this whole issue began is not what you have painted. You're trying to paint it as if that I was trying to stir up disunity, and that's very disingenuous. You should know better, Uche.
No, but the statements were.
I listened to you. Calm yourself.
Okay.
This is somebody said they were to name their child Reno, and I said, okay, please go ahead. I'm all for it. And then he asked me, what is the meaning of your name? I said, oh, well, this is the meaning of my name, and these are the circumstances of my name. And then a lady saw that and said, oh, so this name, so that means that there's, it's like an Igbo name, so that means that our cultures, maybe like we are culturally related people. I said, oh, this is how the names came about. I said, in the past, we used to have a lot of Igbos that unfortunately our people were dealing in slavery. That's why I said history. I did not now say, I never said that Shekiris were superior to Igbos. You said that. I never said that Benis were superior to Igbos. You said that. I just gave a history. I said that this is the reason why that we are having this. And like I told you at the beginning of this conversation, Yoruba people, Generally, they understand that history is not always pleasant. So they are more objective. Now, as a people, the Igbos tend to be more sensitive, although there are exceptions to the rule. So when you now talk about these things, so you are trying to say I'm superior to you. That's not what people are trying to say. I just gave history. And so history is what it is. Now, in doing that, if you do not learn from your history, you are bound to repeat it. And that's why it is good for you to just say that, oh, let us forget about this. Let us talk about how we are brothers and sisters. Then what's going to happen is that we're going to have a process of repeating history. And then we're going to keep on saying that history is repeating itself. I'll give you a very good example. The only reason why the Beninese were able to raid Igbo villages and get Igbos as prisoners, as slaves, and sell them is because, unlike the Benins, the Igbos never had a, an empire under one king that they submitted to unquestioned, without question. So that unity issue is something that has set back the Igbos in pre-colonial days.